story time. So this was hands down one of the wildest transactions I've ever closed. Not because my clients were difficult. Honestly, they were a joy to work with. This was just one of those deals that just kept giving. Now, my sellers reached out to list their home with a very clear deadline. They needed to be under contract by a certain date because they were already under contract on a new construction home. And to keep the rate that they had, they needed to be under contract by a certain time. Mind you, this was right as we were coming out of the summer, heading into the slower fall, winter market, when homes actually start sitting a little longer. No pressure, right? So I had already walked the home previously. So as soon as they called, I gave them a checklist of exactly what needed to be done to make this timeline possible. They executed everything. They painted, did pre-listing repairs, adjustments to get the home market ready. Everything they needed to do, they did. We listed and went under contract at asking. Buyers accepted the home as is. The sellers agreed to concessions based on that. Now, fast forward into the transaction. It's a 2-month closing. Home inspection comes back clean, no request. Again, they accepted it as is. Then comes a septic inspection. We find out that the leach field in the subdivision hadn't been cleared in 3 years due to miscommunication between the HOA and several homeowners. Now, that became an unexpected cost for my sellers. Our contract required us to provide access for inspections, which we did. So I advised my sellers to move forward with clearing it. After the septic inspection, the buyers asked the sellers to cover the reinspection fee. Contractually, providing access does not mean covering inspection costs the buyer chooses to incur. So the sellers declined, buyers declined, and the reinspection fee was $250. So to keep the deal moving, I proposed to the other agent that we split it, and we did. So the next buyer to put out was the HVAC. The listing stated that the HVAC was serviced annually and that the next service was due in November when I spoke with the buyer's agent. Not that the sellers were servicing it. Buyers chose to do an HVAC inspection, which is fair. The report came back with issues, and now they wanted repairs. Mind you, again, in the beginning, it was as is. The home was sold as is, and my sellers had never experienced any HVAC issues, but in the same token, we couldn't afford to have this deal fall apart. So I went into solution mode, and we proposed 3 options. 1, we renegotiate the closing costs, so the sellers could address the HVAC and the remaining amount will go towards the buyer closing costs. 2, we apply the $700 home warranty credit towards the HVAC repair and the buyers obtain their own home warranty. And then 3, we move forward we agreed upon as is. The buyers weren't happy, so I proposed one final alternative to my sellers. That the buyer disclose the appraised value so we can raise the purchase price to the appraised value and address the HVAC so that the buyer can get the difference of that amount that was already allocated. Now, they weren't willing to meet in the middle. At that point, I advised my sellers, I said, hey, pause all negotiations unless the buyers come back to one of the proposed options. High risk, yes. Keep in mind, they still had this house under contract. Was it necessary? Also, yes. I had to remind my sellers, you didn't hire me to give your house away. You hired me to protect your investment. And they trusted me. We held firm. A few days later, the buyer's agent came back and the buyer agreed to option 1, reducing the closing cost credit so that the HVAC could be addressed, with the remainder of the funds going to the buyers. Now, everyone signed off and we moved forward to closing. All of this to say, buying or selling a home is not always smooth, but working with the competent professionals make all the difference. Now, this deal could have fallen apart in so many different ways, and I am truly grateful for the buyer's agent who advocated hard for their clients and worked through the solutions to get us to the closing table. Super grateful for my sellers as well for trusting me through this process. And congratulations to everyone that closed on this home. I want to know in the comments below, what would you have done? Which one of these options presented, 1, 2, or 3, would you have taken in this specific scenario? Leave it below. And as always, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, I'm in Maryland, also licensed in North Carolina.